Today, I'm going to be talking about Sophie, and why in my opinion, she was one of the greatest pop artists of all time, and how the way that her music was treated after her death is the perfect example of what not to do. Now, if you've seen this channel, you know I like to use music videos from songs from the album that I'm talking about in each of my videos, but I can't really do that with this one, because they're good music videos, but as like B-roll footage, they make this video unwatchable. To show you what I mean, I'm just going to play 5 seconds of one of them, so a flashing lights warning until I start talking again. See what I mean? But thankfully, Sophie did do a live stream show like a few years ago, so that is actually, you know, watchable. So you're going to be looking at that for the video, just these colored shapes moving around. It's better than having like a seizure, so, you know. I mean, there's also a video of her talking to a robot called Sophia over a Skype call about the future of creativity. I mean, you could, I don't know. I'm just going to use the colored lights and shapes.
What are 3 websites you visit every day, and why? What drives you to check them?
Just whatever pornography sites I happen to stumble upon.
As I said, Sophie was a pop singer and producer, known for her incredibly unique and raw production style that was immediately recognizable. And if you've listened to her stuff, you know exactly what I mean. A lot of pop music in the 2010s either took influence from EDM or moody R&B, but Sophie's style was real plasticky, industrial, synthetic, and just overall alien sounding. She notably worked with Charlie XCX on her Vroom Vroom EP in 2016, as well as her 2017 mixtapes Pop 2 and Number 1 Angel. All 3 were Charlie's most experimental projects yet. Sophie also worked with Vince Staples on his experimental hip-hop album Big Fish Theory. She even has a vocal feature on the track Yeah Right with Kendrick Lamar. Finally, in 2018, she released her first solo album, Oil of Every Pearl's Uninsides. Whatever that means. This is an album with 2 sides. Half of it is super atmospheric, bittersweet, and serene, and the other half is bass and drums from the pits of hell punching you in the face 50 times a second. Although they sound like they might clash a bit, these 2 styles work really well together, because they both have production that makes it sound like the instruments are made of crystals. And Sophie's singing voice is great as well, as she can really hit those high notes. In terms of some highlights, Pony Boy is definitely up there. This is one of those bass and drums from the pits of hell punching you songs. The vocals all have this weird pitch down effect, so you can't really make out what's being said, but based on what the internet is telling me, it's about the movie Godzilla vs. Kong. I mean, what else could BDSM stand for except Big Dinosaur vs. Super Monkey? The verses is silent. This is one of my favorite tracks, but unfortunately, the name of it always reminds me of the book The Outsiders that I had to read for English class a few years ago, and I despised it. I can't really put it into words, but that book was just... no. The track right after it, Face Shopping, is another one of the best songs. Again, another of the heavier songs, and it's all about materialism. It goes really fucking hard. It's super industrial sounding, and honestly was my favorite off of this album for a long time. Is It Cold in the Water is one of the more atmospheric songs, and the best of them in my opinion. It feels like you're floating through an ocean and you can only faintly see the light from the surface, but it's strangely peaceful in a way. My favorite track is the closer, Whole New World / Pretend World. It's 10 minutes of absolute brain-melting synths, accompanied by some of the most passionate singing on the whole album. It devolves into something really experimental that honestly sounds more like a clipping song, before slowly fading into some ambient synths akin to the ones on Is It Cold in the Water. Of course, every album does have its lowlights as well as its highlights, unfortunately. And on this album, one of them is the opener, It's Okay to Cry. It unfortunately has some of the least interesting production on the album, and while there are some slow songs on this album, this one commits the crime of being slow and boring, at least in my opinion. The singing on this one just also feels a little off, I'm not sure what about it. While a lot of people really like the song Immaterial, I can't get behind it. It's definitely still a Sophie song, but it's the most generic sounding pop track on the album, which is probably not what you want after half an hour of really interesting pop experimentation, and right before A Whole New World, which was, again, complete madness. But that is just my subjective opinion, as always. The album cover for this is great as well, showing how strange and alien yet weirdly beautiful this album is. Everything from the weird flowing dress to the pose to the water on the floor really just adds to it, I think. I don't really know how to explain it other than that. Overall, this is, in my opinion, one of the best pop albums of the 2010s, if not of all time. I genuinely never get tired of the way these songs sound, and it's such a unique style that I've never seen replicated by anyone else, or even anything similar to it. I've just never seen anything like it, really. The only thing bringing it down is the couple duds that it does have. So overall, I think I'm going to give it 8.7 Pony Boys out of 10. Following on from that, the next year in 2019, Sophie released the double album Oil of Every Pearl on Inside's non-stop remix album, which is exactly what it says on the tin. It has remixes, songs that are mashups of two different songs, like the opener Cold World, a mix of Is It Cold in the Water and Whole New World, Pretend World. Although it does also have some completely new tracks like XTC Acid, and these remixes really change how the album sounds. Some of them even border on just being ambient music, honestly. Despite being a remix album that features different variations of the same 9 songs over and over again, excluding the 1 or 2 new tracks, it actually flows fairly well, although it is an hour and a half, so unless you're already a big fan of the original album and are really just craving more Sophie, I can't really recommend it. And even then, as I said, it's a double album, and I think it's actually better to listen to the 2 discs separately to get more out of it. Not as good as the original, but that wasn't really the focus. It's meant to be a remix album that changes up the way it sounds, and it does that really well. Unfortunately, Sophie died in 2021 after falling off of a balcony, and it was obviously a huge loss to the music world. However, in 2024, a posthumous self-titled album was announced and released, meaning we get to step into Sophie's musical madhouse one more time. But honestly, I would rather that we didn't. Yeah, this posthumous album, it's bad. No, it's not just bad, it's actually one of the worst albums I think I've ever heard. And the worst part about that is, it's not Sophie's fault. At all. This album is 1 hour and 7 minutes of songs that are basically completely unfinished. A lot of it sounds less like Sophie, and more like someone trying to copy Sophie. And I really wouldn't be surprised if that's what actually happened. And that goes without even mentioning the fact that Sophie herself has no vocals on this entire album. It's all features. No disrespect to the people who did feature on the album. It certainly wasn't the best thing I've ever heard, but they did try. And the main appeal of Sophie, which was her production, is gone, so they couldn't do much really. But part of me doesn't fully believe that in the 3 years between the release of her only album and her death, Sophie didn't record any vocals for any songs that they could have used. Especially seeing as she likes making music as much as she did. Also, this album cover sucks. I don't know what they were thinking with this. Same with the rest of the album, honestly. Yeah, 3 out of 10. Don't bother. It's not worth your time. Just don't. So yeah, that was a quick little dive into the world of Sophie. And while her career was short-lived, it was super impactful, I think, and really one that is worth celebrating. At least worth celebrating more than already is celebrated. I think she's a super underrated artist that not a lot of people have heard of, but she was super talented. Apart from being just a great producer and singer, she also made a huge impact for trans people in music, which is great, obviously. Next week, I'm going to be talking a bit more about some music that was too weird for the mainstream, and I'm actually going to be taking some suggestions that you guys gave me in the comments of the last video, so make sure you subscribe for that. And yeah, that's it. I'll see you next week. Bye.